We've lined up the top stars from Hollywood and from all over the world to entertain you on a giant screen with the few colorful motion pictures you've been hearing about and reading
It's
about.
showtime, folks. Enjoy the show.
We're delighted to have you with us. They're driving theater.
You'll find something to please you to add to your evening's enjoyment.
Is pleased to bring you our feature presentation.
What's up, everybody? Oh, man. It is not a Monday. What is happening in your life? What is this? You're downloading this on Spotify? It's not Monday? You're like, what the heck? It's not time for the Drive-In Speakerbox. I just had an episode of the Drive-In Speakerbox like 2 days ago. And you're freaking out. You're sitting on the subway. You're thinking about movies. You're like, I already got my fill. But no, this is a special.
You know what? Any time is Drive-In Speakerbox time if you're cool enough.
That's true. You could take it. You could take it on the bus. You could take it on the plane. You could take it on the train, the automobile. You could take it on Thanksgiving vacation, Christmas vacation, on your daily commute, or when you're sitting at work doing nothing, because that's what you get paid to do. Nothing. Sitting at your desk, clicking on Facebook, seeing what happens next. We know what you're doing. But you know, anytime it's Drive-In Speakerbox time, like, subscribe, share, tell your friends. You know, spread the love, as it were. And if you're tuning into the live broadcast, you see our little links down here. We got the Facebook and the YouTube live. If you want to tune in and join the chat, if you're listening to it live, you can do so. But a lot of you are probably like, what the heck? It's not Monday. But this is our worst of 2019 special. It's still January. It's still the new year. And like we've been saying on previous episodes, one of the reasons it takes us a little bit longer to develop this worst of list is we hold ourselves to much stricter criteria than other movie review sites do. You know, I was actually just looking online today, and I want to say it was Variety. You've heard of Variety. It's a big publication. And they were going, with the success of The Witcher, this could possibly open doors to more video game-based television series. And they went on all this thing talking. And the person that wrote it had no idea that The Witcher was based off novels. You know, and it's like, okay, well, this is a TV show not based off of a video game. It's based off of the novels, borrowing influence from the success of the video game. And what we do here on the Drive-In Speakerbox, if something is on our best of or worst ofs, we've watched it, we've thought about it, we've seen it in a theater, or we watched it at home, or we have consumed this media and used our wasted years of life of media consumption to weigh the outcome and to interpret this and send it back to you so that you can make an informed decision. So we've watched all of these movies. We watched so many movies. Man, I watched Countdown. And you know how much I just love mass-marketed, churned-out, stupid horror films.
Sometimes you do, though.
I do like me some horror films, but I don't like these flavor of the month jump scare bullshits that we've been getting so many of in the past 5 years. But tonight, what we're going to do, the way that the format of the Worst of 2019 podcast works is the Grip and myself have walked into empty seats here tonight. We have not shared with each other our lists.
But that's always part of the fun.
That's what I'm saying.
We see where ours lines up sometimes, and there's...
But they don't know that.
Oh, yeah. There's occasions where we rank the same movie the same. You know, it goes pretty good sometimes. So.
They don't know. We're getting them ready. I mean, we got shout-outs to Logan already tuned in from Facebook, walking into 1917.
Don't skip it.
Yeah.
I reviewed it last week. This week.
Yeah, just on Monday.
This Monday, yeah.
So the way this works, the format is we've come up with 10 movies. Our personal opinion of the worst 10 movies of the year. We have our own factors, our own criteria, which we will explain throughout the show. We're going to try and keep this show, compartmentalized, not a normal length show. But we're going to go through the number 10 all the way up to number 1. We're going to take turns and describing each one step by step, why we felt it earned its place on the list, and share with you a journey throughout 2019. And who wants to? Do you want to start? I mean, I felt like I started last year, and every year before that, and so
I don't know. There's times we flip it around. We change the format from time to time, but I can kick it off here.
Kick it off.
All right,
with the Grips number 10 worst movie of 2019, and here's some criteria. Here's another bit of criteria that we adhere to. Films to appear on our list have to have had a theatrical release.
Which this year means they're even further expanded because so many Amazon and even Netflix movies did hit theaters so that they could make these award shows. Like we talked about on a recent episode about how this is the first time that in the bigger award shows that Netflix and Amazon are making their appearances. And that kind of changes a lot of things up. So
it does.
Not all of them. Not all
not all.
Netflix and Amazon originals were theatrically released, but a good handful of them were, for sure.
But if we didn't have this caveat, there are so many garbage movies that are made every year. Just
straight to video
and total trash.
Yeah.
This list would be insane. They're like, well, what about the John Travolta movie Fanatic, where he had the haircut and the mullet, and he was so bad because John Travolta hasn't made a good movie since 2004. And it's like, yeah, that movie sucked dick, or big fat doo-doo filled penis
on a cruise ship.
On a cruise ship, yeah, it was just bad. But you know what? Didn't go in theaters, so we're excluding that one from the list. So just letting you guys know before you start arguing with us in the chat or in the emails or in whatever later. So all right, number 10. Here we go.
All right, so my number 10 for the least worst of the worst ofs is Dumbo.
Dumbo.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's on there, I kept it low because it's not so much the whole of the movie that's terrible, like the story and everything like that was altered for the worse, but mostly intact. And they had a hard thing to work with, removing the crows and trying to make it more acceptable to a audience that would be coming into it for the first time. But they took unnecessary dark turns with it. There was a whole story about like a banker and like big money that really didn't need to be there. No one cared about it.
Was that Michael Keaton's character?
Yeah. Well, he was the evil circus baron that was trying to appease the bank so that they would continue to fund his Disneyland. And it was a Disney movie about an evil Disneyland, and they seemed not to notice that.
A little on the nose.
So, but yeah, Tim Burton just took unnecessarily dark turns with it, and in that
but not
too,
the good Tim Burton dark turns that
but
we expect out of Tim Burton.
The picture itself was too dark. The whole movie looked like someone put like a pair of sunglasses on top of it, and then you had unnecessary human characters and Colin Farrell and his weird family that just didn't need to be there, and so little of the movie was about Dumbo himself and his mother and trying to reconnect with her like the old one was, that made you feel emotions and feelings and want to
and survive
be invested
since
in the
1940s or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. And this movie had none of it. So given that, it is one of the worst of movies that I saw last year.
2010. What? 2019
19.
top 10. Gosh, that shot of Ciroc is already catching up. All right, so my number 10, and I know that somebody's, I can feel the arguments already for some of the stuff that I'm putting on my top 10 lists, because sometimes I'll put perfectly good movies on my worst of list, like the following movie, and it's not because, it's like, this movie was trash. A lot of the times when I put a movie on the list, it's because of a societal reaction to it, or the effects that happen because of this movie, or an audience, the way they handle this movie or worship this movie or pedestalize this movie as, a work of art or so much smarter than it actually really is for those of us that have spent most of our life studying and watching films. But Midsommar is my number 10 worst of 2019. Not because I thought that movie was a very well shot movie.
Yeah, you gave it a fair review.
I did give it a fair review, but I've also had an entire year of other movies to sit and sift and think and sort. And of this particular director, I feel like this is one of his weaker bodies of work. And the way that audiences have pedestalized this movie as being a masterpiece of horror and a masterpiece of femininity and some flag-waving, utopian idea where we hate on everything that has a penis. And it's like, okay, maybe, but I don't really think that if you want to interpret that in that way, that's you. But I don't think this movie is all that. It was 45 minutes too long to get to a pretty obvious conclusion with a pretty heavy-handed message. I mean, there's a lot of cool interpretive things that you can take out of this. The music was great. It was very well shot. But when you start breaking it down and comparing it to A, all the other movies that came out this year, and B, all the other movies that are similar to this, it just starts to get really, really weak. And, to a point where you don't care about literally anything that's happening on the screen except for you've got this media machine that's telling you that this movie's important. Enjoy. You have to. If you don't like this movie, it's because you're dumb. And, that hype machine pisses me off because people fall into it really hard, and that's how we get crazy presidents like the one we have now. You have to look past the surface and judge it for what it is. And Midsommar, it's just a movie, you guys. Not even an amazing one. It's a good movie. But it's the worst. Top 10. Number 10. Midsommar. I'm sorry about it. Not sorry about it at all, actually. I didn't think... whatever. Number 10. Number 9.
Number 9.
Go for it.
All right. So, I don't know how everyone will feel about this one.
Oh, in the comments, Johnny Dalton, he said, kind of reminds him of when Sideways came out. Absolutely agree. Merlot sales went through the roof because people are stupid. And Sideways is an okay movie. Was it an amazing film? Did it justify an entire category of wine to, that it's like what we always say about Oscar season or Parasite. Parasite's a perfectly amazing, great film, and no one gave a shit about it until somebody at the Academy goes, well, it should win an award. And now everybody's like, oh, yeah, I loved it, didn't you? And I go, I remember when I told you to see it and you told me to F off. No, I don't remember that.
What was that movie that came out in 2018 about the women that were at NASA and all of that, the black women at NASA, and no one cared, and then they're like awards, and then it came back in the theater and it was more successful after that than its initial run in the movie theater?
Yes, because that's how it works.
Yeah,
right.
Remember that? Number 9, just coming at you hard with this one, Terminator.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Shots fired.
That one was not a perfectly good movie, but instead it was shit. It was not good.
If you want the extended, unabridged opinion of the grip of this movie, search back in our podcast for the one that has Terminator Dark Fate in the title, because that was something.
Well, just to keep it short on this one, the return of Linda Hamilton coming back was not anything to generate the amount of hype that it did. The character of Sarah Connor was not the same Sarah Connor that we last saw in T2. She was better off in The Casket Full of Guns in T3.
The Casket Full of Guns. Oh, I forgot about that. Pretty decent pinball machine, though, Terminator 3.
To be fair here, Arnold turned in a good performance as a Terminator that had developed emotions and cares and a conscience and developed a family and had become his own person with the most form of remorse that a Terminator could be able to muster up. But the new character introduced of, I don't even remember what her name is. Girl
Terminator.
Yeah, Girl Terminator. That's not a Terminator. And then the entire purpose of the movie to eliminate the entire idea of Terminators and being like, oh no, Terminators are old school.
Alternate timeline.
Yeah, these are new, different robots.
Do you guys like Pickle Rick? Because you're gonna love Terminator Dark Fate.
Right. So they eliminated Terminators from the movie titled Terminator. They murked John Connor in 2 seconds, and then replaced him with some girl that no one ever cared about or is going to care about or matters at all. And they tried to create this real girl power movement movie that just fell flat on its face.
So we got a comment on Facebook. Travis says Terminator Dark Woke.
Yeah, but it wasn't, and that's the whole point. Like they tried to show like the ice in tournaments, like the ice holding cells, like kind of a thing. It just hit on hot topics and buzzwords and anything that really could generate some sort of emotional response to this movie that just wasn't going to be there.
It just felt disingenuous. It's like,
yeah,
and I say this a lot about movies. For people that are just now tuning into the Drive-In Speakerbox may not know this about us. When we start bitching about some of these social issues and blah blah blah, don't let this lead you to think that we're not on board with a lot of these issues. In fact, we generally are. I mean, we're pretty progressive dudes. But when you start using these ideals to sell tickets and just on a surface level use
that has no depth or purpose or meaning to it other than being able to attract that person to give you ticket
and take money from them.
Yeah.
Like that is not how this works. That is not how activism works, and that is not. I mean, if you want to make a change in the world, that I didn't see Buena Vista Home Entertainment donating even. Okay, if you were to take, I don't know what's 4% of 1.5 billion. Producer, can you calculate that one for me? Just. Oh, sorry. Here, I can do it really fast.
Well, while you're doing that, in the comments, people are talking about Genesis and Salvation. And, to that point, all of the previous Terminators from 3 Salvation, Genesis, there's been something there that's made it entertaining, fun to watch. Salvation, yeah, it tried something else. It went outside of the timeline, went to the future, because ever since you see scarred up, super badass John Connor at the beginning of T2, you're like, yeah, this is cool. You want to see that future. And while you didn't get that same future portrayed in Salvation, because it was a lead up to that, you did still get to see something there. And then Genesis came at you with some unique ideas, and it tried something, and the whole social media app craze thing with Miles Dyson's kid or whatever the hell thing.
Vacuums?
No, no. But like that didn't really work out. But Arnold becoming like a mixed liquid Terminator lead off at the end, and Skynet, and I don't know. Dude, you liked Genesis a little bit.
I liked Genesis a lot.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. Like, at least there was something there, but in Dark Fate there was nothing.
No.
And Arnold wasn't enough to carry the movie.
Took all these elements that we'd already seen, and we're like, I forgot all the other ones, but hey, remember these things from all the other ones?
Right, yeah, and that was their whole thing, is that every interview and every piece of press, they're like, this is a full reset. Salvation, or 3 Salvation and Genesis can suck it. This is the sequel to T2. Those are eliminated. And they're like, by the way, Terminators are eliminated. And instead of coming at you with a new story, we took 3 Salvation and Genesis and rolled them into a single movie, because every bit of Dark Fate was from those 3. So it was non-unique. It was non-entertaining, and it just ripped money from people, and it was terrible. So
that's your number 9, eh? Number 9.
Death of a franchise.
And not to go too deep into it, because we've already missed the point, but that was $20 million. The math I was trying to do. You didn't see Disney taking $20 million from ticket sales from Black Panther and donating it to educational humanitarian programs, but they sure loved making you take your money, thinking that what they're doing is championing minority causes. It's like, well, take 2% of it and do something good with it. Nah, we're going to take 20% of it and do Disney Plus, and we're going to give you Baby Yoda and take more of your fucking money. So, you can't fool me. Like build the library that he did in the movie, and it cost even less. Anyway. Number 9, X-Men Dark Phoenix.
Oh.
Dark Phoenix, again.
So spoiler, it's not in my top 10, but it was in my list of ones that might make it. So.
Oh. It was up there.
It was like a runner-up.
So, again, to me, this movie, while getting panned by critics, bombing at the box office, just not really doing really well for Fox, 20th Century Fox, which is no longer 20th Century Fox because Disney thinks we're all complete idiots. So it's now 20th Century Productions because they don't want to be attached to the Fox name, and they think people are too stupid to disassociate, which they are, and Disney's right. But it's just like we can't be trusted with the name Fox because we're too ignorant to separate it from Fox News.
No one's ever boycotted Star Wars because they didn't like Fox News.
Right?
Yeah.
But a lot of people forget that Star Wars is 20th Century Fox.
Really? Because it opens up with the giant logo every time.
They only know the drum sound. Bum, 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 bum. Brrr, bum. They know that. That's the Star Wars intro noise. Right? No, it's 20th Century Fox. But X-Men Dark Phoenix, the reason it made it on my list is because this was like the last dying breath of trying to figure out how to course correct a train wreck of retroactively building a cinematic universe after watching Disney do it. And, I think Fox has been kicking themselves for years because they were the ones that had the potential to do it all along. In a time where no one was taking chances on comic book movies, they were, and this was. And we forget that 20 years ago was a different time, and 20 years ago in movies. We weren't sitting here planning the next 20 sequels of a franchise, especially one with about a dude with metal chinks out of his hand and a bald guy that can melt your brain and a dude that goes, hey, you got nails in your pocket? Mine now.
Yeah, but are you really giving it a chance when you don't really pick fan favorites and you don't use any of the storylines?
What are you talking about fan favorites?
And
Hugh Jackman is Wolverine to
throw
this
away
day.
their costumes and then make a
Patrick
joke about
Stewart, to this day,
Wizard
the casting
Wizard
was
cast
on
Patrick Stewart.
point. Exactly. The casting was on point back at the time, but they weren't thinking about turning this into a big universe, so they made a self-contained standalone movie, made a lot of money, and they're like, oh, shit, we need to do this again. And then they were just trying so hard to ride this wave, and they hadn't programmed audiences weren't programmed to be salivating at the idea of another one until this sort of Harry Potter thing got slammed at us, and Iron Man got slammed at us, and all of this franchise monster got created. And then Fox has been like, well, we only have one comic book property. How do we make this into that? And you can't. You've missed it. You've missed the boat. You've reset the timeline with X-Men Apocalypse. You've tried to reset it again, even with First Class, and it just is not working, okay? And then Dark Phoenix, everyone's like, well, everybody loves the Phoenix storyline. We have to do it. Remember the kids show? That was the best arc of the whole kids show. You have to read the comics to like it. And then it just still doesn't work because they're trying to fit all the square peg round hole crap, and it just doesn't work. And the movie fell apart. Not as a standalone movie, because a standalone movie, not bad, but because they hyped it up as and the marketing. I know you're making a face.
The Jessica Chastain aliens,
Yes.
Not bad.
Do I need to go back to Fast and Furious? Oh God. Do we need to go there?
No one in Fast and Furious killed a dog at the beginning of the movie.
In Fast and Furious, they Bluetooth controlled the World War II submarine. Get out of here. With that bull crap. Ludacris drove a snowplow Humvee in Antarctica and outrun a stealth bomber or something ridiculous that Charlize Theron was controlling from Air Force One. I just don't come at me, bro.
Evolution of a series, bro.
But my point is the movie is indiscernible from any other comic book movie. It's fine. It's fine as a comic book movie. But when they're like, a movie 18 years in the making since, and they tried to do all this marketing about like making it like Avengers Endgame and making it like, oh, well, this is what we've all been waiting for, the crescendo of the X-Men saga. It's like, no one's really been waiting for this. You're just trying to market it that way. And so number 9, X-Men Dark Phoenix, worst of 2018. Number 8.
Number 8. I kind of went with a low-hanging fruit on this one. Little.
Oh my! I didn't even remember that movie.
Yeah, you know,
Whoa.
the one where the sassy business lady who's mean to everyone has the body change.
Yeah, Freaky Friday.
Yeah,
She gets
kind of a
Freaky
thing.
Friday.
So the little kid gets pushed around by her, and she's like, you know what? You wouldn't be like this if you were little. I wish you were little. And she's like, whatever, dude. And then wakes up as a child the next morning. Yep.
And you watched this?
I did.
Oh.
Yeah. For this list, man.
I know.
I knew it was going to be bad. But it's one of those things where it may have been fine if it was like a Hallmark Channel movie that found its audience there, like a someone would watch it, Disney Channel or Hallmark Channel like type movie where it has that audience that's like, this is going to be crap. I can't wait to watch it with commercial breaks. But it wasn't. It was a movie that someone looked at and they're like, that belongs in theaters. Let's do it. And it was awkward and weird, and it played to weird racial stereotypes that did not need to be there half of the time, and then tried to pretend that that wasn't the case the other half of the time. And it had grown men dancing in their underwear to 12-year-olds. And
wait, what?
Yeah, exactly. And just every part of it. They were like an app development team, and at the end of the movie, the app they're trying to develop is the dumbest idea you've ever heard, which is why someone put it in a movie script instead of making it a real app. And just every part of it was
just less than.
Yeah, the ideas
little.
were very little. Yeah. So, and none of it really came together. There were relationships that they didn't bother to develop. And so from one scene to the next, everyone's world would just change. And the whole point of it was that she's supposed to have like this whole Ebenezer Scrooge turn where she's like, oh my God, I have been terrible. Well, now I'm a good person. And it happens in an instant. It's a switch, and it flips at the very end of the movie. So there's no build, development, and there was no effort put into it. And it was, I guess, trying to be a vehicle for that chick that's in the show on HBO, and I can't remember what her name is, who's the main character in this one. Yeah, and it was just, it was bad. So like I said, low-hanging fruit. We knew it was going to be bad. It's there, number 8.
Boom. My number 8 is I wouldn't say low-hanging fruit, because I think everybody was hoping, well, everybody meaning the studios were hoping that this was going to be a big breakout hit with, something that I've talked about in previous episodes, and actually a lot in 2018 about the emerging Latin American sort of cinema market, which Hollywood has been trying to cash in on really hard. And I wish they would do it a little bit better, but it's improving. But my number 8 is Miss Bala.
I thought about watching that one.
And again, it's just one of these movies that you feel that the reasons that they're making it are just, you just feel something's off, and you can't quite put your finger on it. And I mean, the marketing behind this movie was monstrous. You couldn't not see the trailer to Miss Bala and the posters for Miss Bala. And then as soon as Miss Bala happened, you couldn't remember that it even existed.
It looked like it was a movie made to rival that TV show, like Queen of the South or something.
Well, the movie, to me, it's like, if you're going to tell Latin American stories, do they all have to center around drug lords and human trafficking? I think that's a little not. I mean, like look at Coco. Like, what an amazing story, that was. I mean, if you want to talk about sitting and crying.
Yeah, I was about to say, I ain't about movies that are about dead grannies. What? Come on, man. No one wants that. You're like, oh, I'm going to go watch this movie about this kid and guitar and like Dia de los Muertos. And then they're like, guess what, dude? Dead grannies. Nothing but dead grannies. Feel the emotions of having a dead granny. And you're like, I hate you, Coco.
No,
I hate
but
you
you
so much.
love Coco.
And they're like, look at this dog. Also, the dog is dead because dead dogs and dead grannies. And you're like, I hate you, Coco, so much.
But Miss Bala didn't even try to figure out where her heartstrings were or tell a story. It's just like, you know drug lords and you don't like them. You don't like drug lords that capture young women. You know what? That's bad. Guess what? Shoot them. And that was the movie. And
female Sicario.
But not even. You know, it was female Sicario 2. Which was like Sicario 2 was bad.
What was the dumbass subtitle for that movie?
I don't know.
It was like half English. It was like
Sicario 2 bullet delivery guy or something.
But it was like in
stupid.
Spanglish.
It was silly. It was not good. But that was my number 8, Miss Bala. All right, number 7. Moving
Number
along.
7. All right. This one is one that I went to. Dealt with the trailers for a really long time. Went to it to give it a chance, and then suffered through. Good Boys.
Really?
Was a bad movie.
On your top 10?
Did you watch that movie?
In the theaters.
It was like...
It was a little dildo-centric, I will agree.
And it pretended that South Park hadn't existed for 20 years. And that
also agree.
The idea of children with foul mouths was new to the world, which, as having been a child with a foul mouth...
it's been around for a long time.
Nope, I was there. Way worse off than these kids. But they tried to basically create a stoner comedy for children, and it was not for children but with children, and it was awkward and none of the jokes hit, and there was nothing.
Well, the gimmick wore off really quick,
very quick, because it was there, it was done, it was over, and it wasn't like something like Goonies or Adventure in Babysitting or I don't know, any other movie where you have like a gang of kids that are thrown into a situation that they shouldn't be in.
Or even the first season of Stranger Things, you know?
Sure. Or like friggin' oh man.
It?
No, what's the movie that made Michael Cera and
Superbad.
Jonah Hill? Yeah, it wasn't like Superbad or something like that where you have teenagers that are still young and they're in high school, they're still children. And they go on some weird adventure, but they're old enough to kind of handle themselves. Instead, they're like, what if those kids were 10 years younger even? You know, and it was...
Where they've probably never even said penis.
Yeah.
And now are getting bombarded with dildos.
Right, and they tried to make them too innocent and put them in a far from innocent situation, and none of it really added up. None of it really hit, and I don't understand why that movie made as much money.
It made a lot of money.
It did.
A lot of money.
So it was painful to sit through, and it was very lackluster. So there you go.
That's your number 8?
Yeah, 7.
7, excuse me. My number 7 is more thematic. I do this from time to time, and I'm going to have 2 of them on my list this year. But number 7 is, and I know this is going to hit a sore subject for you, but dog movies. So
no, I mean I saw the trailers for those, and I chose not to watch them.
A Dog's Journey, A Dog's Way Home.
You sat through these movies?
So okay, hear me out. And Arctic Dogs.
Whoa,
and
you watched that?
I watched Arctic Dogs. And I started A Dog's Journey. And then halfway through A Dog's Journey, I was like, screw all of these stupid-ass dog movies. And
well, if we're doing movies that we started and didn't make it through, I got one for sure.
But so, you know, it's just this, I don't know what happened in 2019 where we had to be like, let's make a movie about how important man's best friend is. And it's like, yo, dude, we've already seen Homeward Bound. Like, we love it. And, but, you know, Arctic Dogs was real stupid and bad. And again, it was one of my least favorite things, which was CGI animals doing people things, but to another level of just like jumping on this dog's bandwagon. And but the Dog's Journey, Dog's Way Home, like all this kind of stuff, it's like, yeah, we get it, we all remember Homeward Bound, and we want another one. Or Old Yeller. Or
There
all,
was a second Homeward Bound, so.
Yeah, Homeward Bound 2. Watch that. And
And there was the Old Yeller 2, Savage Sam.
Oh, dude, yeah. Oh, digging deep. But yeah, that was my number 7. I don't want to go too super deep into it because it's more of an umbrella of ideas. But it's just can we move past it, you guys? Because these dog movies, like, we get it. You love dogs.
Plus, in dog movies, they always die, and that's not cool.
Yeah, some dogs.
Looking at you, Turner and Hooch.
Oof. Don't make me
I can't watch it.
Don't make me go there, man.
I know, man.
I don't want to have to go relive that moment when Hooch died. It's like, yeah, okay, he had babies, but he wasn't a Hooch.
And he was murked by Coach. AKA Mr. Incredible.
Yeah, everybody knows Coach.
Yeah.
AKA the dude in Poltergeist.
What's his name?
Well, now that you said it.
I know. That's the Craig T. Nelson.
Craig T. Nelson.
There it is.
There it is. All right. That's my number 7. Number 6.
6, Late Night. The Mindy Kaling vehicle that all it did was hold on the key for way too long, almost burn out the starter, not figure out how to put in the gear. They did that thing in movies where
holding the key way too long.
They looked in reverse and then they just drove it right into the garage, covered in the paint cans, ruined forever. It was not good, and it was tough to see Emma Thompson in that kind of movie and role where she's not supposed to be like a likable person, because Emma Thompson's very good at being a likable person or a character actor, and this movie just didn't work for her. Mindy Kaling's comedy really shone through in the fact that it wasn't there, and everything was just trying to portray some sort of difficulty of like being a female in a workplace that's full of these dudes who are just so,
I mean, if you
caveman cartoonish.
If you want a good example of that, Bombshell was the movie to see, you know?
Sure, something based on real life.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in this one, they made everyone such a cartoon. Like there was someone who was a fuck boy, as they're called, and then there was like a slob, and then there was the guy who didn't want to be there, and they were just all caricatures, and there was no character or humanity to any of the people. John Lithgow actually was really good in the movie for the 3 minutes that he appeared on screen, and his whole role was for Emma Thompson to have sucked off some other dude while they were married and to be sulky about it. So that was a bummer.
A sulky suck off? Say that 3 times fast. Can we get a brand of clothing at Hot Topic just called Sulky Suck Off?
No, let's not do that.
Okay.
But the whole point of it is that there was some wasted talent there, and there was a script that held no weight or I don't know, heft. There was no substance, and it was something that every joke they made was very empty, and it really didn't create any kind of character or story that you were wanting to be invested in. It was just like a journey to the end of the movie kind of a thing. So,
all right,
there you go.
And that's your number 7.
6.
That's right. You starting first is just throwing me off here.
It's your idea, bro.
I know. Gosh. Well, my number 6 is the other half of my sort of thematic deal, even though they really only released one movie in 2009, and it was called Unplanned. But my worst of 2019 is Pure Flicks.
Every year,
just Pure Flicks, and it's because it's growing, and even more so now because Pure Flicks just released a streaming service, and their movie Unplanned, which I watched, good, and I've worked on these kind of movies before, and they're just, oh my god, and it's just appealing to such a low common denominator of guilt tripping people into buying tickets to a movie. They're like, well, if I don't buy a ticket to this movie, I'm going to burn in eternal damnation because I'm a good book-loving Christian. And if I don't go see this good book-loving Christian movie, then I'm just not a good book-loving Christian. So I guess I better give more money to guys in these mega churches flying around in helicopters and on the 700 Club, like
locking their doors when hurricanes come through.
Yeah, just going, ooh, wipe your feet. Oh, you've got mud on. Click, happy drowning. And there's so many of these like really terrible faith-based movie. The other one, the Underwater, I can't even remember the name of it, but I watched it too. Or
the one where the kid falls to the ice and then
Jesus
dies.
Gets him out or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like,
but then doesn't
take my
die.
hand. Yeah, it's like, oh, well, now I'm a smart mathematician because I almost died in the ice. And God, and it's just like these movies are not good movies, and yet somehow they end up in these theaters, and we keep watching them, and now there's a streaming service, and golly Moses, we just need to part the sea of these terrible movies and just woof, or at least make them better. I heard that Mel Gibson is thinking about making like a Bible cinematic universe after Passion of the Christ.
I was about to say, hey, if there's someone to do it, because he made all of the money with his Jesus beating movie.
Yeah, so
it's like, hey, you guys want to see Jesus get the hell kicked out of him for 2.5 hours?
Check it out. It's right here. And then watch Apocalypto, because I think he was responsible for that too.
Anyway, he was. Yeah. Apocalypto's messed up.
But I know, it's like, how do you go from Passion of the Christ, taking all the money from all these good book-loving people that go, I don't like to support institutions that glorify the devil's water or inappropriate sexual behaviors or any of this sort of bad things. But you know what? Passion of the Christ and Mel Gibson are real good. Did you watch Apocalypto? No. What's that about? Yeah. Watch Apocalypto.
Don't.
Yeah. Anyway, that was my number 6.
Number 5. Yo, straight up, come at me, Avengers.
Number 5, Avengers.
Yeah, just because it was. I mean, did you see it?
Let's hold that because mine is also Avengers is also on my list.
So
we'll save this conversation.
Well, all right, okay.
That's your number 5.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, we've talked about it before. I'm just saying.
Save your number 5. My number 5 was Cats. And I saw this in the theater, and it's only at number 5. A lot of people are like, oh, it's probably the first one because I saw it on the internet as the worst movie ever. Well, did you see it?
No, but you did.
I went. I saw it. I sat in the theater, and I was like, yep, that's what a musical on screen looks like. I don't know what the hell everybody's so uptight about. You ever been to a musical? You ever seen Cats? That's what it is. And for whatever reason, you demanded it be a movie, which it should have never been. And that's what you get. That's what you get. And we deserved Cats, so that's why it's not the worst movie in 2019, because we deserved it.
It was a movie before, but they wore the same like on stage costumes and kept it real instead of having like weird sleek CGI sex
they
bodies.
did a stage. They just filmed a stage version of it, and that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah,
because,
that's fine.
But they took everything away from Cats that made Cats, which is
they left the silly names.
They did. They left all the silly names like rumtumtuggers.com. And but the thing is everything that makes Cats interesting is just the physical ability of these people doing unbelievable dance moves and choreography that embraces feline movement. And they're like, you know what? Get Julie Dench to do it. She's 100 billion, but CGI will make her look like a cat. And it's like, no.
Everyone wants to see a 90-year-old woman lick her leg.
And we got to. And that's on y'all. That's on y'all. And that's the only reason it's at number 5 and not higher up is because honestly, it was exactly what I thought a Cats movie was gonna be, and how dare you think otherwise? So number 5, Cats.
Well, speaking of cats, coming in quick, Lion King.
Ooh,
yeah.
Is that your number 4?
Number 4.
So my number 4 is gonna piggyback off of your number 4. So go ahead.
Okay. Well, I just put it there because it took every bit of fun and legacy and anything that was created by the first animated Lion King, which was just friggin' Shakespeare anyhow. It already was a remake to begin with, and it took it to a level where there was nothing there to enjoy.
No substance.
Yeah, all of the songs were out of key or fell flat. Beyonce sang bad. How does Queen Bee have a terrible song? That's not supposed to happen, you guys, but it did. Her song was the worst one in the entire movie.
And just because you like Beyonce doesn't mean that the song was good.
Exactly.
That's a thing we talk about a lot
and
here.
It turns out that Donald Glover shouldn't sing. I guess he can rap. Some people are into that. I personally prefer him from Derek Comedy. Look it up on YouTube. It's here after you're done watching us. That was good stuff. But he should not sing, especially not alongside some of these other more talented voice actors. And they put all of these actors into voice acting roles.
They put celebrities.
Voice acting and acting are different, and you have to be able to pull off voice acting. And Billy Eichner should not be a voice actor, ever. That shouldn't exist. Seth Rogen may have been able to pull off a good Pumbaa, but it was so overcast and interrupted by everything that the Billy Eichner Timon had to do, that those two characters were not fun anymore. There was nothing entertaining or fun about them. John Oliver could definitely pull off voice acting, but him as Zazu was way too much John Oliver and not enough character. Mm-hmm. And then the Be Prepared song that Jeremy Irons killed in the original animated. They rewrote the song and took most of it out, and it wasn't the freaking banger that slapped that the original one was. It was a song that had no substance and lack of rhythm, and it wasn't there. And the hyenas were no longer Cheech Marin and Whoopi Goldberg and Winnie the Pooh. What's his name? His name is...
Oh, bother, I can't remember.
What is his name?
I don't know, forget.
Anyhow, the voice actor that did Winnie the Pooh was one of the three hyenas. There you go. Fun fact for y'all. But instead, they were these... I don't know. They were like a gang of hoodlums that just wanted to be violent, to be violent. And they tried the whole girl power thing in this movie with the lionesses, and they did the Avengers thing with like lionesses, a symbol, and tried to like fight, and it was dumb as hell, and everything in the movie just didn't...
Forced.
Yeah, it was very forced. Very, I don't know, trying to do anything they could to make you watch the movie, but everything there just kind of pushed back on you hard to show you that they didn't respect you, that they only wanted you to give them money, and that was the end of it. And there's no future for it to carry on because the original Lion King trumps it in every way.
So with that said, I think I'm going to just go ahead and roll into my number 4 because I think we're seeing a theme here, and my number 4 is Aladdin.
Oh, damn.
And the theme,
I almost grouped, so how you grouped them, I almost grouped like a Disney.
The theme
remake.
is leave these classics alone in Chris Crocker voice as best as I can. They're amazing as they are. People are still consuming them in their original content because guess what? Hand-drawn animation is timeless. CGI animation is dated and will always be dated. Just like I hypothesized back when Jungle Book, the first Jungle Book Disney CGI whatever that spawned like 8 other Jungle Book CGI whatevers that particular following year.
But to be fair, the Netflix one with with
okay.
Andy Serkis is actually pretty good.
But we'd already blown our load on CGI Jungle Book remakes and guess what? You go back to that other Jungle Book and you're like, dude, that looks like trash. This tiger looks, is that even what the hell am I watching? Are those lips on an anaconda? And you just get lost because the CGI dates itself literally the month afterwards.
Right. Well, and that's part of it with Lion King too. They try too hard with the CGI and a lot of it comes off bad, and they try to make them too realistic to animal rather than have cartoon qualities that animation provides.
Yes.
And it makes a lot of it awkward.
It does. And so when you make these live action, sure, it's going to be a cash grab, not because the movie is great. It's because we are programmed and pre-described to say we have to see, like just like we were talking about Lion King. We had a lot of friends who, well, I have to see it in theaters just
I
to
heard
see
that a
what
lot.
they
Like,
did.
Well, I have to go because people are talking about it.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's not how this works.
yeah, with a remake, you don't.
You don't.
have
You've
to.
seen it. You know what happens.
Well, and the thing on Aladdin too, all of those songs, they changed the timing
they added
of the
new songs, which were totally unnecessary because it pulled up a forced agenda that didn't feel natural.
Same thing with the entire Jasmine character.
Yes.
Forced there with Nassim Pedrad from SNL.
It's like,
being
I get it. You want to
weird
tell a
love
story
interest.
where there's a big, strong female character, and you want to, guess what? Don't resurrect ancient Arabian Nights tales that are essentially making females indentured servants. Actually, just leave that alone. Let's make some new stories that don't. We don't go and go, actually, this fun plantation owner that was a strong, independent woman that didn't actually own. You don't do that because back then was a different time and those stories were different and those stories were trying to move away from that time. So just because Aladdin got made and we like Aladdin, and it removes some of those barriers in an animation format, but we're going to cast it with real people and pretend that ancient, Mesopotamian crazy shit didn't happen.
Yeah, okay, well, but part of that, you're right now, is you're ignoring that Jasmine was kind of badass in the first Aladdin because she straight up was like giving kids fruit and she's going to get her hand chopped
also
off.
a cartoon.
But she's like, yo, this is what the right thing to do is. And then Jafar's being like a real fucking cocksmoke. And she's like, no, suck it, dude. He's like, well, guess what? Magic is going to ruin your life, But she's like, well, I'm going to be defiant because... fuck you, bro.
But it was handled in a way that was natural.
Yeah,
and through
and
the
then this
power of
movie
animation.
doesn't do that.
This movie doesn't do that.
She's like, get off of me, giant, strong guards. I'm singing a song. And then she like charges at Jafar, who's just like not menacing at all. And she's like, guess what? You suck. And he's like, well, you know what? Big Iago. So there you go.
Dumb. Is
I
bad.
feel you
and then
on
also
this one.
remember Will Smith was the genie.
For some reason, people liked that. Yeah, they're like, well,
I
look at
don't
his
know.
CGI muscles. How about that though?
Well, it wasn't a good year for Will Smith in CGI because CGI Genie wasn't great, and the CGI in Gemini Man, which didn't make it to my top 10 list, but I did watch Gemini Man. The young Will Smith was really, really awkward and uncomfortable to watch in a lot of that movie.
Maybe
The movie wasn't actually that bad.
They should have borrowed some of that CGI for Bad Boys to cover up his stunt double.
Yes, they should have.
Clearly not him every time.
Anyway, that was my number 4. I think the whole Disney like Dumbo, Aladdin, Lion King, Beauty and the Beast. Like, I know that wasn't this year, but this trend that we're seeing from Aladdin, instead of coming up with new quality ideas, just like Disney Plus. Disney Plus is still yet to create really new, engaging ideas. Like Mandalorian! I was like, Mandalorian is essentially a story about Boba Fett, who's a character that's already 40 years old. Like, get out of here. Like, that is not new content. Disney has a very bad problem with new content. And they've programmed us to not be welcoming to new content, and that's where I get so mad about Disney. But anyway, that's our number 4. Number 3.
Number 3, not a Disney movie, but definitely wanted to be. Isn't It Romantic?
That was on my watch list, but I didn't get to make it.
Don't bother, bro. So it was very much wanting to be a Disney movie, wanting to be a fairy tale. It tried the Dickensian move of being like, oh no, I'm seeing the errors of my ways and I'm going to change my life. And it was very much like that movie where the fairy tale cartoon princess is zapped out of her world and brought into the real one and walks around. The plot of this movie, just to run through it with you real quick, is that Rebel Wilson is a overweight Australian woman who was told her whole life.
Go figure.
Yeah, was told her whole life that because of that, and because of her origins, that the world wouldn't like her and that she's not fit for romance, and that romantic comedies are the dumbest portrayal that there can be. So her little child heart broke as her mother told her this while she watched Pretty Woman, because she could never be Julia Roberts, right? that's the
I don't know. I'm pretty sure
So-
even fat girls can be hookers.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. I missed the point of that movie, right? Yeah, wear the tall boots, keep a lot of condoms. Hope you run into Richard Gere, who doesn't know how to drive the supercar. He just rented, but we'll let you drive
you
it
like
as
hamsters.
well. But from that point, it fast forwards into the future. She's an architect in New York City because that's what you do as a downtrodden Australian. Is you're like, I'm gonna make it big as an architect in New York, low tier architect. And
You know, I love these kind of romantic comedy jobs because they always take place in a really big city where you have to make a shitload of money to survive. But you never see them going to work. They just have like nice clothes and nice cars and a nice apartment.
So that's
and then
the whole
they're never
thing.
at work.
So exactly, and that's where this movie, from the moment you see that she's a architect, she gets into a conversation with her assistant about that exact thing. They say all those exact words in that exact sequence, and they're like, "Oh," she goes, "I hate romantic comedies because they're dumb, and here's why." And there's a whole montage scene of her being like, "And then they do this, and then they do that, and they always wake up with their hair and makeup and all this done."
And yet they did that in the every step by
Sure.
step.
And then she hits her head and she wakes up in a world where it is a romantic comedy. And then she's trying her best to escape it. And she's like, my escape from this romantic comedy is that I have to make someone fall in love with me. And so she does all of these things. And through that process, she realizes that love was in front of her the whole time. So then she awakes back into the real world and then changes her life. She walks into her job more confident. She tells everyone to stick it. She walks into the pitch meeting, tells the boss and the boss's boss and the investor that are all there that they can suck it. This is her idea. They're going to deal with it. And they just let her do it. She doesn't get fired. And then she goes up to the boy that she likes and she's like, guess what, dude? We're fucking. And he's like, sounds great. And then she goes down in this elevator and then there's a dance number. And then it ends. That's the end of the movie.
Isn't it romantic?
Isn't it romantic? She walks in, she says, she slaps trash out of this dude's hand. She tells this one bitch to stuff it. She walks in the meeting and she goes, this is my plan for a parking deck. Top architect, design some concrete, suck it, walks out, tells Adam Devine that they're going to sex, and then she has a dance number. The movie ends. It's the dumbest thing. There's more than one out of place musical number. There's the character development, again, all happens in the last 2 minutes because she goes to stop the wedding. She's like, no, stop the wedding, because in her reality, the guy she likes is marrying some hot model chick. And then she's like, no, don't do it. She doesn't even like you. And here's the reason. Oh, but you know what? In this process, I found that I really like myself the most. Bye. And then that's where her attitude comes from. And it was every bit of
number 3.
difficult as you could imagine it would be. And there was lots of head-on scenes of watching Rebel Wilson run. It's something she does not do naturally. And it shows. No, but the thing is, they try to play it for comedy. They try to use it in the movie and play her running for comedy, but you can see clearly that it, like, she was running and there was someone who's just like, yeah, this is great. Put that on camera.
Well, I can actually attest to this because my number 3 is The Hustle starring Rebel Wilson. And I don't know how we both picked Rebel Wilson movies for our number 3.
Because they're bad.
But they did that a lot in this movie as well, where the entire movie was like, guess what? She's fat and we want to laugh at it.
You don't need to...
we get it. And she's like, I'm going to eat all these Twankies. And look at me. I'm going to rub Twankies on my big titties. Titties, I've got titties. I'm still sexual and I like to have sex with the Twankies. And you're like, okay, Rebel Wilson, if you want to, actually be a celebrity that fights body image, that fights fat shaming, that fights making young women that want to have a career, and then you're going to sit there and just make fat comedy and self-deprecating humor. Like, you're not doing anybody any favors by greenlighting these movies, because yes, we all laugh at that shit. Like, I'm dressed up as a trash bag and like my trashy dress worked again. And The Hustle, which if you've not seen The Hustle is a really, really, really half-assed attempt at a remake of a really fantastic movie called Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, which just caused the Grip to break his pen in half.
Because they even make a joke about it in the friggin' trailer, and it set me off, because Dirty Rotten Scoundrels is a classic. It has Steve Martin, it has Michael Caine, and it's perfect.
It is,
and
a
it
great
has
movie.
a very strong female character who just screws both of them over in that movie.
That is the thing. Like the thing that makes Dirty Rotten Scoundrels such a good movie, and why it makes The Hustle a fail as a gender flip. And this is where gender flips really start to be aggravating, is because the original movie didn't give any precedence towards any sort of gender. The movie is called Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. It doesn't celebrate their behavior. It doesn't high-five them for screwing over people. They didn't screw over exclusively women. They were con artists. And in the end, they try to con a particular woman, and in the end of that movie, that woman is the true con artist and cons them both. And so everything's balanced. It's funny. It's exciting. There's a whodunit. It's a caper. And it's gender neutral. But this movie is like, all we do is screw over guys that want to have sex with us, and we're going to make money off of it. And Rebel Wilson's like, I do it on a small time. And then, what's-her-face is like...
Anne Hathaway.
Anne Hathaway. She's like, well, I'm rich, and I only screw over rich millionaire guys that want to have sex with me. And it's like, men are pigs, right? Yeah, men are pigs, right? And they only think with their penis. And we can get millions out of screwing over guys because they want to have sex with us. And the whole movie is just like that. And then by the time the character that cons them both comes in, there's this giant epilogue that continues the girl power narrative that just train rolls through the whole purpose of the first movie, and where they all become a great guy screwing team at the end. And Rebel Wilson gets the sex at the end with the guy that none of it makes sense, and so much of the movie is centered around constant Rebel Wilson, who just is at a 14 the whole movie, where she needs to be at like a 7. And the jokes that she's making and the physical comedy that she's making doesn't fit in any point in this movie. And if it had just been kind of a fun con movie, it actually could have worked. It could have worked. No. I know this, that you're about to get I can feel the tear welling up in your eye, but it could have worked. But they squandered every last absolute chance. And I even think that they filmed part of it in the original location that they filmed Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
On the Cliffside Hotel.
The Cliffside Hotel, which I thought was kind of cool. But it was none of the jokes landed. It was painful to watch. It was just so predictable, and to where you knew what was going to happen. And the thing that made Dirty Rotten Scoundrels so great is the MacGuffin at the end. You're kind of like, oh, snap. And if you've never seen the movie, you don't see it coming. But this movie just sets it up. You're just waiting for it. And so when it happens, there's like a 20-minute epilogue at the end where they all become buddies. And it's number 3, The Hustle.
Number 2, another franchise death. Men in Black. International. Yeah.
Ooh, I saw that one in theaters.
Yeah. So again, they brought in acclaimed actor, just like with Late Night. You have John
Liam
Lithgow.
Neeson?
Yeah, you got Neeson there, and he's awesome. He's like, Rip Torn was the big
Zed.
honcho, Zed in the first couple of movies, and Rip Torn's cool because he has that voice. He's Rip Torn. And he's like, that ain't buried treasure. That's soap on a rope.
But he's also dead.
Freddie got fingered. And this was a different branch. It's international, and actually, I just thought about this. This movie stars Emma Thompson as well.
Ooh, a lot of Emma Thompson on
as
your
another
list.
not good character. You have Neeson in there for every bit of like 3 seconds, and then he's gone, and that is. They bring him back later, and it turns out that he is like a soul trapped inside of the bad alien guy or something. And it's just, why do you do that?
My problem with this movie is they introduced Chris Hemsworth as Fat Thor for the whole movie.
Yeah, he was I don't give a crap Fat Thor man.
Yeah.
Well, and then they tried to use it as a Kumail Nanjiani vehicle, and his character was difficult to deal with. Tough to put up with on screen.
That's putting it lightly.
And what's her face? Chick from Creed.
Who's in every movie right now.
Who's in Avengers and who was a friend of Fat Thor.
She's Valkyrie.
Yeah, well, I can't remember what her name is right now. She is not quite at that level.
Tessa Thompson.
Yeah, thank you. She's not quite there to occupy that role of Will Smith or Tommy Lee Jones to carry a movie like that. Obviously Chris Hemsworth can headline a movie and make something like that happen. But I think
doesn't mean I'm going to like it.
Right, and I think they took some of the a good majority of the heart of the previous movies, well, at least one, somewhat two, away from that, because 3 had nothing going on for it.
Well, yeah, 3 was, again...
It had Josh Brolin doing a great Tommy Lee Jones impression.
Yeah. But it's just another like, sort of death cry of a dying franchise.
Sure, and it opened up. The first 10 seconds were great. It had Morse Day and the Time playing. Tessa Thompson's character's dad was all about Morse Day, and he was in the living room dancing in his tank top, just having a blast. I was like, hey, I like this guy. I was like, we get along. But then you have like just
the rest of the movie.
Yeah, the rest of the movie, and the whole international branch thing undermined a lot of what the other movies had, because if there's other MIB branches around the globe, then what were the stakes of the other movie, and how come they didn't have unlimited backup, and why don't the ones in this movie have backup?
And also, if you're an agency that protects the universe from alien and threat and invasion, then what's a border on planet Earth? Like,
well, but that's the thing. They showed us customs in the other movies and stuff like that.
They went from what? They went from the UK to the United States in a portal tube in a matter of like 2 seconds. So why would you need all these? Well, this is the agency that's like literally next door. That's like, well, that's a different agency through that doorway.
Yeah, well, that's true. And then the primary villains of this movie were the twins from The Matrix, but toned down, and they looked like Keegan-Michael Key.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, it just there was nothing that had the same appeal as Men in Black in the past has had there to try to carry any of this forward. And yeah, Chris Hemsworth character was too slobby, Sunday morning cartoon type Dilbert character with a gun, and
yeah,
it just
whatever.
It didn't. None of it worked. Neeson was cool, and they killed him in the first 120 minutes. Yeah, 120 seconds.
So my number 2. Surprised it didn't land on your list, but I'm guessing it's just because you couldn't sit through it. I had to take breaks to get myself to finish Charlie's Angels.
Well, that and because it was no longer in theaters, and I don't have a working PC, so.
Oof. Charlie's Angels, you guys. Charlie's Angels. I mean, and I like Elizabeth Banks. I've loved Elizabeth. I'm going to be real honest. I've had a crush on Elizabeth Banks since like the late 90s. Like, Elizabeth Banks is super funny, super cool. She's the director. Because
you watch 40-Year-Old Virgin and you're like, yeah.
No, it's because I watched like early weird comedies like the Baxter and the State Gang and Stella Gang. She's a part of that sort of squad, and Elizabeth Banks is really, really cool, and attractive ladies with really good senses of humor are incredibly hot to me. And she wrote and directed this movie, but she chose to write and direct this movie, and this movie was just such a pile of nonsensical, just on the nose, heavy-handed, trying to get with the Twitter sphere garbage, that every bit of it just felt phony and weak and cliche and bad. And and I'm not the only one that says this. Like, no one liked this movie. And you've got Kristen Stewart, who I think is capable of doing a good performance in a movie, but not this one.
Yeah, when they're small, independent art house style films.
But and then you Patrick Stewart coming in and doing a little cameos. And
wasn't Patrick Stewart and Elizabeth Banks both like different Bosleys? Didn't this pull the MIB International?
There were like 3 Bosleys.
Yeah, that's dumb. I hate that.
Jimon Hansu was another Bosley as well in this movie.
Is that because they were trying to explain why Bill Murray and
at that
Bernie
point,
Mac were both Bosleys?
At that point, I think I was reheating pizza. But this, oh my god, this movie was about as dumb as that 6 Underground movie that Michael Bay did for Netflix, which was also pretty damn dumb. But not quite as dumb as Charlie's Angels. And it's just a movie that did not need to happen.
No.
We've tried it once.
Twice, 2 or 3 times.
We tried it twice. With third time's not a charm. And I know why they're doing it. They're trying to, again, use an agenda to sell tickets, which is not the way to do it. It just doesn't work. Number 2, I don't want to go too far on Charlie's Angels.
Well, hold on though, but check this out. No one's going to have the same, I don't know, love for this that they would the original series, because the original Charlie's Angels came at a time when it fit and it needed to be there, and it was something that was cool. You had like
things that's something you bring up a really good point, that sometimes things exist in a time for a reason, and they can only exist in that time for a reason. When you try to plug them into another time, it doesn't always work.
Yeah, and I don't know, trying the same format. I mean, Charlie's Angels is classic and cool, and when you try to update it and change the formula in a way, it doesn't have the same fit, and there's not the same, I don't know, it doesn't seem like those characters would fit together in any way. And if you do like a whole Third Degree of Separation, you got Jasmine from Aladdin in that movie too.
It's kind of like the A-Team movie didn't really land.
Hey. A-Team movie was fun. I don't know what you're talking about. Rampage was pretty good as B.A. Liam Neeson as my boy Hannibal. Hannibal's the coolest. Everyone knows Hannibal's the coolest. You're telling me why? Because why?
I just didn't think it needed to happen.
No, it did not need to happen.
I didn't think it felt right.
But it was okay.
Out of place.
It was okay.
I will say it was better than Charlie's Angels.
Yeah, no doubt.
I
thought the A-Team movie was okay.
Whack.
Let's not attack that.
Just whack. I am really sad, kind of a runner-up before we get to the number 1. I'm sad I didn't get to see Black Christmas, because I've heard nothing but terrible things about Black Christmas, the remake from, which has actually been remade several times, the 74 original, which is kind of a horror classic. Didn't get to check that one out, but I hear it's terrible. But it again goes back into what we're talking about thematically with Charlie's Angels and this agenda tickets and all this kind of weird stuff that makes movies feel, not genuine and just like marketing schemes to get money out of your hand. So with that said, I think we need to move to number 1, because we are pushing our hour and a half.
Oh, yeah. All right. Number 1, and I'm surprised you didn't have this unless you have it grouped in with the one that we know is going to be yours. Star Wars, man.
No, I didn't. I'm not on the same boat as you, dude.
Well, man, that movie was painful.
I agree-ish, but I don't think it's number 1 material.
Man,
not for me.
But it was the sign-off for the franchise, right? They're like, this is the last one. It's number 9. It's the 3rd in a row of ones that no one needed or wanted, and we undid everything that you loved about your expanded universe and told you to fuck yourself, and we gave you this instead, and this is what you have now. You have lightsabers that appear out of thin air. You have shruggy Kylos. You get friggin' weird love stories that don't exist.
The character from Men in Black International that didn't work in Men in Black International, but they plugged him in Star Wars and he worked, but he wasn't in Kamiyami or whatever his name is. I forget because I'm talking fast. But the Babu thing.
Oh, Babu Frick
is the character from Men in Black. It's the same
thing.
Character.
Oh, dude. Yeah, crap. I knew I had seen that thing before. You're right. It was the little chess piece Kumail Nanjiani character,
and he's like,
as Babu Frick.
Yeah, funny thing.
J.J. Abrams took the reins again and decided to course correct right into an iceberg, sink that fucking ship, you know. And he was like, check this out, y'all. Carrie Russell's hair peeking out because Felicity, bitches. That's where I made my money, J.J. Abrams. Fuck you, J.J. Abrams. And then you have Palpatine on a stick, and you have just like everything just fucking stupid, man. It wasn't Star Wars. It was montages, and it was just scene change after scene change after poor joke after
without even
poor
having
joke.
iris wipes or left to right wipes.
There was nothing Star Wars about this movie that carried the name Star Wars, and it was just rapid fire coming at you. It was a spray and pray method of being like, if we throw enough things at you, enough things will stick and you'll come away with some sort of impression. And because it's called Star Wars, you're going to defend it because of your misplaced fandom. And none of it worked. None of this will be something that's fondly looked upon in the future anywhere near the same way that 4, 5, and 6, or even 1, 2, and 3 are starting to be. There's people that I've seen talk about how they are fans of 1, 2, and 3, but 1, 2, and 3 has some merit because it was creating backstory for things that happen. And then 7, 8, and 9 come in rapid fire. They're 1.5, 2 years apart.
Money.
Yeah, and they're so back and forth, and there's no cohesive story there. You're like, why are they gambling? Why are there weird space horses? Why are there more weird space horses?
Why are they shooting a bow and arrow at a battle cruiser?
And you're like, okay, why does this chick kiss on this dude on these salt, not Hoth planets?
Why did female Daft Punk show up?
Yeah, you just have so many weird things. You're like, oh, why did Leia and Luke both die? It
just talking to people, like, I'm gonna talk to you from a long distance,
yeah,
and now I'm gonna die.
And you watch 6 movies. You watch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, in whatever order you choose. There's one right way and one wrong way. But you watch those, and then you come into 7, 8, 9, and you're like, since when can Jedi Superman through space? Since when can they make items appear or talk through the universe or do anything that they did? And so it just separates it so far from anything.
And then also,
Star
let's
Wars.
be mortal enemies for all 3 of these movies, but then also we're going to smooch.
Right. You know, there was no attempt at anything to appease what fan base was there, and they tried too much to try and just cash in on them.
I don't know. They watered it down there. Just like J.J. Abrams said, well, you can't please everyone, but you tried. You tried to please everyone, and then by doing so, you pleased no one.
I don't think they tried. I think they're like, oh, well, this will really get everyone's rocks off. And he was probably just surrounded by a bunch of yes men motherfuckers that are like, oh yeah, no doubt, oh yeah, that's cool, yeah, oh yeah, that's not stupid for sure. And
cameos, sure, let's chalk more of them in there.
And after The Last Jedi, you're like, well, how much worse can it really get? And this movie showed you that there is more depth that they can sink to, and there's nothing that can make it better at this point, you know. So Star Wars was my number 1 worst of. Thought it was terrible.
Well, if you've been paying attention to the whole show by process of elimination, you've probably figured out what my number 1 is. My number 1 is Avengers Endgame, worst movie of 2019. And I know what you're thinking, but it made all the money in the world. And you're right. It made over $1 billion. Well, excuse me, not $1 billion domestically. It made $858 million just here in the States. Okay? This movie made worldwide. This one movie, this one not that great movie, made $2.79 billion. For what?
But that was by a forced hand as well.
Of course. You know? Everything was about a stupid...
re-release. It's re-released.
Gauntleted forced hand. Mm-hmm. Everything about this movie was just represented every freaking wrong thing that's going on in movie making right now. This movie represents so much terrible shit that it has to be the number 1 worst. Because
Pander the movie.
Yes, it's not a very good story. It was
What story?
exactly, there is none, and everybody's like, well, I just needed to know what happened after Infinity War, and it's like, I told you the moment that I walked out of the theater, everyone's gonna come back to life, alternate timelines, time stones, blah blah blah, the million things that Doctor Strange figured.
Yeah, but
it's so stupid. And
what
like,
you didn't
but
guess-
Spider-Man died, and it's like, oh well, he's coming back.
What you didn't guess was America's ass, because they had already used the Hulk dick, so now they had to have America's ass.
Captain America's booty. And this movie was from start to finish one of the most predictable, churned out, by the book, color by numbers pile of generic popcorn action, and we gave it $3 billion. That's wrong. Do you know $3 billion? And guess what? It didn't even take that very long for us to give it to it. It took 8 weeks. 8 weeks. That's 2 months. And we collectively managed to, we can't feed the poor, we can't figure out health care, we can't educate our children, we can't get guns out of schools, but we can give $3 collective billion in 8 weeks to Robert Downey Jr. going pew, 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 pew. Like that's what we gave $3 billion. There are many countries in the world that can't generate $3 billion in a decade of existence, and we gave it to somebody that showed his butt. And went, you've been wanting to see this, I bet. And that's what we did. And we're talking about, well, we just needed to see where the story was going. The story went nowhere. The story was like, well, I guess literally everything we did didn't matter. And then they're like, but Iron Man died. No, his contract ended. That's what that was. Plot twist, they'd keep making those movies for an eternity with Iron Man at the helm if he hadn't been like, you know what, I've been doing this for 16 years. I don't want to do this anymore. Contract over. I might come back in a side plot screen. That's why Disney fought so hard to keep Spider-Man, because they're like, how do we lead the Avengers? We don't have any good characters that anyone's going to give a shit about. We have to get Spider-Man on board.
Well, and this the jump around that these movies do from how long it took to develop something in the comics to just how rapid they progress it in the movies. This one ends with Cap passing his title on to the Falcon.
Yeah, and his contract
skipping
ending too.
over Bucky entirely, and Cap Buck was the coolest. Bucky Cap was the best because he would fucking shoot people.
But Falcon as Cap is
ethnic
and a way cheaper Disney Plus series to produce.
Well, that's probably true.
Which is coming. It's other characters, the TV show, because it's Falcon and whatever else. Disney Plus. They're like, hey, that one. No, we don't have to pay Scarlett Johansson to be in a Disney Plus show. Let's pay the other ones.
Yeah. So I mean, it just everything in this. They're like. The fucking scene where every female character decided at the same time
to stop fighting together with all of the world's heroes that have come to thwart Thanos because it's going to require all of them. They go, stop, everyone!
Yeah, let's get together for a splash page.
But only girls now.
Yeah.
Let's the Hulk, we don't need you right now. Doctor Strange, who actually has the solution, we don't need you right now. Let's all assemble as just female superheroes and try and win some Twitter followers.
Just to be clear, the reason that this is not liked by us is because it's over the top pandering, and it's trying to lowest common denominator. It's trying to make you feel like they're there to help or represent or do something that's there other than just
taking your money.
Treat you like you're an idiot.
Mm-hmm. And that's what this movie represents to me. This movie represents everything about Hollywood treating us like idiots. And we proved them right. We absolutely proved them right. And we're going to continue to see. That's why we got Jurassic World 2. And we gave that billions of dollars. And
but the toys, though, you know what? You can make all the shitty Jurassic World movies you want if they're straight to video or something, but as long as you keep making those toys.
Cool dinosaurs. But guess what? Disney didn't invent dinosaurs. You know what?
No, but they're fucking sick. Yo, look at my big boy. Yo, sick. Look how dope this is.
It's true because it's a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and T-Rexes are dope. But Disney didn't invent those. Nature did. And, you know, my problem here is these movies are not deserving of the hype, not deserving of the accolade, not deserving of the worship, not deserving of... And here's another thing that drives me nuts about Avengers Endgame and movies like it, is they're educating and brainwashing an audience to... This is why Parasite didn't get a wide theatrical release. This is why The Irishman went directly to Netflix. This is why, you know, a lot of these movies that I had to, like, get on the internet and search out how I was going to see The Lighthouse. This is like, you know, all of these movies, even going back to Midsummer. Didn't think Midsummer was all that great, but you couldn't find it to watch it because of movies like Avengers Endgame, because you have to make movies like this to get in to get people to want to see it.
It's why I had to wait to buy Shadow because we didn't get to watch it.
We didn't get to watch it here. Yeah.
Things like Ip Man 4 weren't released. Movies that I was very excited to watch, like The Bang 3 and other movies like that, don't get their chance to find an audience or for people to discover those movies because there's all of these other ones that are just money makers that are out there to do that. And that's all. Movies have always been there like that, but there's been some substance to it, like Titanic or Saving Private Ryan or something there that's you're like, that's guaranteed money.
Well, people have always understood
there's something there.
That movies... There are lots of genres of movies. We've all, like, for years, we've always, like, I don't really like romantic comedies, but I know we're going to keep making them. And, you know, people know that there are thrillers and actions and horrors and, you know, your art films and your this and your that. And all movies are, you know, there's something for everyone. But now, with this new model and method of movie making, audiences, because it's a fanatic cult now, that if movies don't follow this blockbuster format, then they're not even getting greenlit. They're not even getting people aren't even going to watch them because they're like, it doesn't make any money, didn't you? The theaters. And so I think that's one of the big reasons that TV is long form television is starting to grow.
Freedom.
Is you get a little bit of freedom.
Exposure.
You get a little chance to tell stories. You don't have to just sit here and make $3 billion off ticket sales and figure out how you're going to do the toy deal, because that's what theatrical experience has turned into. And I think that's toxic. And Avengers Endgame represents every bit of that toxicity. And that's why it's my number one.
Fair.
Yeah. So there you go. That's our number ones. That's 2019. We went through them. We watched all of this stuff. And yeah, we hope that you guys enjoyed our roundup. We've got 2020 on the way. We've got all of these new movies to watch. We've got so much stuff. And again, these are just our lists. That's why we make separate lists, because everyone's different. And your opinion, if you like Avengers, I mean, that's fine. You're wrong, but it's your opinion, and you're entitled to it. So we want you to take this information, learn from it, grow from it, go see movies. You know, even if we say a movie's stupid, we don't want you to not see these movies.
I mean, we watched them.
We watched them. So, yeah, tune in, share this, tell your friends. Drive-In Speakerbox. It's on Facebook and YouTube. Just /The Drive-In Speakerbox. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.